Good morning, friends. Good morning to all you on Zoom as well. Thank you for joining us here, Fairfield meeting. It's lovely to have you here. Nice to see some rain out there. My house is needing it bad, so the plants are happy. So, as we watch the news this weekend with the Queen's passing, my wife and my mother-in-law have always been enamored by the royal family. I've never been quite as interested, but nevertheless, it had me thinking about many of our ancestors who came from Europe and maybe 300, 400 years ago, but all the influences on their lives and on our lives, how much has happened since then, but how much has remained the same. If people fled religious persecution in the 1600s, the freedoms that we have, do we recognize them? The freedoms that people have lost, do we recognize those? So today, let's just remember the history of our people and how we can also, the memory and the thoughts of what people sacrificed traveling across an ocean for religious freedom. The people that made the trip after, have they been treated as well? We had Protestants that were fleeing. We also had Quakers that were fleeing persecution in England itself. In the 1600s and 1700s, if you were practicing religion the way the state didn't want you to in England, you were cast out of your community if it wasn't by the book of how the state said you should practice Christianity. So let's just never forget that the freedoms that we have, no matter where we came from in the world, people have suffered to keep them. So as we go into quiet time, let's just remember how fortunate we are. Remember that if we see something that seems unjust, people are being treated the way that they shouldn't be treated, let's say something, do something, because our freedoms are not a given. So as we go into quiet time, let's reflect on that, and also please remember to silence your phones. We'll now sing in the worship and song hymnal 271, Simple Gifts. Stand if you are able, please.
We were laughing yesterday at church cleanup day about stand as you are able, and we were just hopeful the ones that were out here doing this would be able to stand. So I think we've got everybody up, so it's a good thing. So.
First, I'll start by asking if anyone on Zoom has any announcements. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Teresa. We are 1 week away from our Family Promise Host Week, which starts next Sunday. And I wanted to thank everyone who signed up. The sheet is pretty much covered. There's one person who's donating money for Wednesday night's dinner, and I'm going to see if the mothers at the home have any specific thing that they could prepare in the kitchen that day to help fulfill that. So anyway, we pretty much have everything we need. I wanted to thank everyone who volunteered, and I will send future emails just to the people who have signed up. If you need anything else, contact me directly. But thanks to everyone.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on Zoom? If not, I'll get started. I have one quick announcement. Tara Stewart is asking if anyone that signed up to be a nursery volunteer, if they can just have a quick 10-minute meeting after church in the children's room. And anyone else, go ahead.
Just letting everyone know, so an email was sent out last night about the fall nature walk at Turkey Run State Park. That will be October 8th. There was a link in the email that you can go, and it has the details of what we'll do, and there's a little form at the bottom. It's a little hard to see, but there's a form there basically for you to register and show what your interest is in the trail options, or you can talk to me, but hoping we get several people going.
Next week on the 22nd, we will be having the beginning of our Max Carter Quakerism classes. We have 160 people signed up for this already. So we have expanded what we're going to have on Zoom. And I will be sending out, a lot of you have already asked for the Zoom link, and I'm giving that to you. If the ministry and council decided we wanted to have everybody that wants to have the Zoom have it, so I will be sending out a link this week to everybody. If you already have the link, no worry, you've got it, and it's the same. But if you still haven't gotten it and you want to have it, it will be sent out to everybody this week.
Are we going to have a monthly meeting?
Well, I'll ask the clerk of monthly meeting. As far as I know, we will have the September monthly meeting for business next Sunday, September 18th, 7 p.m. on Zoom. And if you haven't attended before, this is a great opportunity involved and learn about the business of the meeting. The meetings usually only last about an hour and 20 minutes, typically. I mean, I can't promise that, but typically. And you're at home, so you can sit in your comfy clothes and have your drink there and still get back to watch football or whatever you like in the evening. But like I said, it really doesn't take that much time, and everyone's encouraged to attend. I think that's out of our purview.
Thank you, Glenn. I appreciate you covering for me.
Also next Sunday, the Festival of Faith will be held downtown for the Center for Interfaith Cooperation. There'll be 50 booths there and lots of other activities from 1 to 3 on the 18th. At Military Park, I know First Friends will be there, Earlham School of Religion, so have a good Quaker representative there too.
Don, you want this?
Good morning. Beth is sitting over here calmly, but at 1 o'clock we're going to be meeting with the writers group, and that group is growing. If you want to find more about the joy and appreciation of what you read and write, show up at 1 o'clock. We have a Zoom connection if you want to see me after, and I'll send you the link. But we have people on Zoom from Montana and wherever if they can't be here. So 1 o'clock, it's a couple hours of learning and the joy of learning to write and read better.
I just wanted to thank the group. I have my own microphone, so I'm taking over. Watch out. I want to thank the group of workers who came yesterday and did cleanup. Craig, Joanne, Phil, Anita, the Gabbards, sorry. Carol and Jim drove down from Monticello and trimmed the trees out front. And my wife, Pam. You want to notice some of the things we did along the back here are bushes. We dug out from underneath them and mulched them in that. The garden behind the meeting house is progressing little by little. It's going to be looking great soon. The bushes out front all got trimmed, and we took down some things that had kind of died out, and then we trimmed all those trees. People from Monticello came down to do that for us. So thanks, everybody. Sorry.
It does look great out there. Thank you, everyone.
Good to pause from the busyness of our week, from the demands of our jobs, our many responsibilities, to pause, to listen, to renew our friendships, to be filled with hope, to leave here encouraged by the possibilities the world has to offer, and not discouraged by the challenges we face. We ask, O God, that your light illumine this world, that it shines into the darkest recesses of our life, that it bring healing and hope and joy to all and not just us alone. Amen. Well, I look around, Rick and Laura, it's so good to see you. So I know COVID has kind of put a little scare. The other day, Bill Smith, and this was from an epidemiologist who said that the next round of COVID will be pardon me? That the next round will be dramatically less viral and severe than what we've experienced in the past. So that is good news indeed. Good to see Steve Blacker. He was the Icon's Man of the Week. And I read it through, and they gave all these glowing reports about Steve, and then it got to his personal biography, and it asked what his biggest regret was. And he said, in his customary humble fashion, that his biggest regret was being born handsome and not wealthy. And when I read that, I thought, I have to say something about that. Well, I've been dwelling lately on the topic of humanism, which when I was growing up and even as an adult, I heard was a grave sin until I started reading about it. And it occurred to me that Jesus and many other people I admire were humanists, those who had a high regard for human worth, dignity, and value. There's a man named Paul Kurtz who wrote in the book Free Inquiry these lines: "We offer humanism as a realistic alternative to theologies of despair and ideologies of violence, and as a source of rich personal significance and genuine satisfaction in the service to others." That's very Quakerly, isn't it? Very Quakerly. Whenever Joanne and I go to the farm, we stop by the town deli there in Paoli, the Lost River Deli, and pick up the latest copy of the local newspaper. And we do that to see who has died in our absence. There's nothing more embarrassing than bumping into someone and asking them how their family is, only to be told that the entire family was killed when an asteroid struck their home during Sunday dinner. Boy, talk about an awkward silence. And trust me, that only has to happen once to motivate you to read the weekly newspaper. So we read to see who died, and then my second favorite part of the newspaper is the church page. I love the church page. Reading the local church news, which is invariably a roll call of pessimism and gloom. Fundamental passion, Jesus descending on the clouds to wage battle against the ungodly, which includes everyone but them. Now, it's not that these churches aren't without their virtues. If your house is struck with an asteroid and you need food, they will rise to the occasion. But if you're trying to discern the nature of reality or the essence of humanity, or ever even want to boost to your morale, you would be well advised to look elsewhere. Several years ago, we were fortunate to have Matthew Fox, the author of Original Blessing, visit us one evening and speak to us right here in our little meeting house from this very pulpit. Formerly a Catholic priest, Matthew Fox was expelled from the Catholic Church for rejecting the doctrine of original sin. Hence the title of his most well-known book, Original Blessing, which sold millions of copies worldwide. The Italian philosopher and psychologist Vito Mancuso wrote the introduction to the Italian language version of Original Blessing and included these words in that introduction. When Jesus was born, the angels did not sing, "You'd better watch out." The angels sang, "Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace to humans whom God favors." Despite that, most of Christianity embraced a theology of gloomy despair, telling us over and over again that we were fallen, full of sin, deserving of and destined for everlasting eternal punishment. The eminent theologian and philosopher George Carlin described this religion to a T when he said religion has convinced people that there's an invisible man living in the sky who watches everything you do every minute of every day. And the invisible man has a special list of 10 things he does not want you to do. And if you do any of these 10 things, he has a special place full of fire and smoke and burning and torture and anguish, where he will send you to live and suffer and burn and choke and scream and cry forever and ever until the end of time. But he loves you. 10 things you should not do. Mindless, unquestioning obedience is everything. Let's talk about that this morning. You'll remember we've been dwelling on the topic of humanism, the affirmation of human worth, dignity, and value. We've mentioned the failure of religion to affirm human worth, dignity, and value, and nowhere is that more evident than in the glacial pace of moral evolution in religion, because religions, by their very nature, because they are a collective effort, a group effort, only evolve as their least moral participant. Religion, we have observed that those people who are the least morally developed too often hold back those who are the most morally developed. I had a fascinating lunch this week with a man who's been my editor for years at the Saturday Evening Post. And unbeknownst to me, he'd grown up here in Indianapolis, and his brother was the head of the Franciscans worldwide, and so had an office in the Vatican and was good friends with the Pope. And he told me a story about his brother and his Pope meeting to discuss their desire to bring women into full equality and leadership in the church, but were unable to do so, knowing that too many cardinals, bishops, and priests would not stand for it. Now think about that. Here is a religious tradition that has the doctrine of papal infallibility, a religion who teaches that the Pope is incapable of error in pronouncing dogma. But even then, the moral evolution of the church is constrained by the least thoughtful, least morally developed people in their faith community. So here's the Pope who has all this power to do this, and still is stifled, still is handcuffed, because of those who refuse to evolve. This is why religions are most often the caboose on the train of moral progress, and not the engine. They cannot begin their journey until everyone else is on board. Hence the Humanist Council, and this is where I think the humanists have something to teach us. The Humanist Council never to give someone else ultimate control of your moral development. Never give someone else ultimate control of your personal moral development. Never place your ethics in the hands of someone less involved than yourself, whether it is a partner, a pastor, or a president. Secondly, humanism asserts, and this is a related point, that even as religions move at a glacial pace on pressing moral issues, they often demand absolute compliance from their participants. they expect to be obeyed and followed. Challenging and questioning are discouraged and sometimes even punished. Now, in this country, we can no longer imprison or kill heretics, but we can and we do impose social penalties on those who challenge dogma. This week, Joanne and I were having supper with a friend and his wife, now Quakers, who belonged to a Missouri Synod Lutheran church when they were first married, where he served as its pastor. It was his first church, and he went there as his pastor. He was young, just starting out, and I asked him, was that a good experience for you, being the pastor of a Missouri Synod Lutheran church? And he said, you know, it was wonderful. It was a wonderful experience. People were very kind to us. We made a lot of friends. He said, and then stayed one Sunday of expressing doubts about one of the doctrines. I said, what happened? He said, I had to leave. I had to leave. Now, you know, of course, that we Quakers aren't exempt from that. Read our history. It's the nature of religion. We're slow to evolve and consequently fear and even punish those who call us to forge ahead, those who say, come on, it's time we move forward. And I think this is something humanism has to teach us when religion becomes in conversation with other actors in society, one of which, of course, are humanists, that they do have something to teach us, and that is this, that whereas in most religions obedience is expected, in humanism, unquestioned obedience is suspect. If someone tells us we have to believe something, we get a little leery. Now, if you are a counselor, if you're a therapist, you know that skepticism and resistance are healthy responses to any party, person, religion, or government who demands our uncritical allegiance. You know that if you're a counselor, a therapist, or have been in counseling, you have probably learned and probably know that skepticism and resistance are healthy responses to any party, person, religion, or government who demands our uncritical allegiance, who tells us we must believe no matter our doubts, we must obey no matter what. That in that moment, skepticism and resistance are healthy responses. When we have a high regard for human worth, dignity, and value, we realize the importance of the unfettered conscience, the value of standing upright when others demand we bow at the knee. This is one more reason that I believe Jesus was a humanist. In his resolve, in his determination to be a free moral agent, to stand when others would have him bow and scrape, to honor in every moment, in every circumstance, human worth, dignity, and value. Jesus embodied the very best of humanity. It is my hope that we as his followers might also live with such principled courage. Well, one of the things I missed the most when we were meeting over Zoom and not in person was the ability to change the last song. And watch Lee scramble across the back of the room and hurry to the piano, flipping madly through the hymnal to see what hymn I had in mind. We've sang a beautiful little song here before, not too often, but it's a tune we're familiar with. And I just love the words of this song and the example of it. It's in our green hymnal, our Quaker hymnal, hymn number 272, George Fox. And Lee, can you play that through once? And if you are able to stand and can stand after workday yesterday, we'll listen to Lee play it through and then we'll join in singing. So grace is a little world of passionate people who come to us from all sides, from the right, from the left, urging us to follow their dogma, to embrace their enthusiasms and say no to that which must be said. To say yes to that which must be done. So this is for the good, wherever you see it, in whomever you find. This is our prayer. Turn to your friends.